Welcome, one and all, as we lift up our hearts in this sacred company. Let us rejoice in this new and glorious day, a day to rest in the grace of this miraculous creation, a day to picture our greatest hopes, a day to praise the source of all, a day to weave our celebrations and sorrows into our own commission, to craft beauty and promise, justice and mercy, guided by the Spirit of love dwelling in us, among us, and beyond us. Welcome to worship this day. Our opening words this morning come from John O'Donohue. Each day is a path of wonder, a different invitation. Days are where our lives gradually become visible. Mornings rarely find us so astounded as at the new day that we are unable to decide between adventures. We take on days with the same conditioned reflex with which we wash and put on our clothes in the morning. If we could be mindful of how short our time is, we might learn how precious each day is. There are people who will never forget today. A man awakes in the morning beset by an old emptiness that has gnawed at him for years. But now he is adept at managing it. He accommodates himself to another day. Instinctively, he sets the compass of his mind. Later in the morning, at work, he receives a call from a woman he once knew. He had never forgotten her. He always sensed that she might have had the same measure of his emptiness. Now, out of the blue, she's wondering if they might meet for dinner. As he puts down the phone, he imagines he can hear a door opening and senses that things may never be the same again. Somewhere else, a woman awakes beside her husband. She already feels weary at the prospect of the morning's work and the rest of the day minding young children. But she stops herself, coaxes her heart to realize that things are actually great. The relationship has deepened in the last while. The awkwardness with the eldest son has calmed. The money situation has improved significantly. She gets up, goes to take her shower. At this stage, she's even singing quietly to herself. She does her routine breast check and finds the lump. An abyss opens. She will never forget this day. Meanwhile, we dodder through our days as if they were our surest belongings. No day belongs to us. Each day is a gift. On its way toward us, destiny travels silently until it arrives. Then something we've never expected becomes loud around us. Time is where eternity unfolds. Morning is the time to recognize the new day with a sense of creative expectation and open-heartedness.
This morning's reading is a story from a beloved figure known around the Middle East and South Asia, a holy fool named Nasruddin. Reverend Parisa grew up hearing Mullah Nasruddin's stories and chose this, one of her favorites since becoming a minister, for me to share with you today, and you might begin to understand why. As part of his duties as a mullah, Nasruddin had to give weekly speeches to his community. We might call them sermons. But as you might be able to imagine, finding something to say week after week became tedious for the mullah. And greatly bored of the routine, he looked for a way out of the task. One day, after going up to the pulpit and beginning his speech, he asked his congregation, "Do you know what I'm about to teach you?" They looked confused. "No," they replied. "Well then," Nasruddin said, "since you don't have enough background information, there's really no point in me trying to teach you at all." And with that, he gathered his robes and descended the pulpit emphatically, and he left. The next week, he went up to the pulpit, and this time he asked his audience, "Okay, do you know now what I am about to teach you?" This time, they thought they were on to his trick, so they responded, "Yes, we do know what you are going to teach us." And so Nasruddin replied, "Well, if you already know, then there is no point in me telling you at all." And he gathered up his robes emphatically and descended the pulpit and left. The next week, he went up to the pulpit once more and asked, "Do you know what I am about to teach you?" And the people, having thought hard, decided they were onto his trick once again and replied, "Half of us do and half of us don't." Nasruddin smiled broadly at the news. "Fantastic! Now the half of you who do know can tell the half of you who don't." And with that, he gathered up his robes emphatically and descended the pulpit and left.
Do you know what I'm about to teach you? Believe me, especially after preaching yesterday at Eric Resley's ordination, I was more than a little tempted to pull a Mullah Nasruddin as I prepared this morning. On my last day before sabbatical, I do feel not bored with the routine as Nasruddin did, but because Sunday worship is one of the greatest joys of my ministry. But I do feel rather spent when it comes to finding words and stories and putting them together in just the right way and hoping that they will be heard, really heard. You see, except for pausing to have my two sons, I've been at this work of ministry, sometimes with 2 or 3 jobs at once, for 14 years. The last 7.5 have been spent with all of you, and they have been rich and rewarding, as were the 6 years before. And it's high time that I took the time to take stock, to fill my own well, and to listen to the calling of the future, which, of course, it's impossible to do without taking time to remember the past. In his book, A Dresser of Sycamore Trees, Pastor Garrett Kaiser describes his own travel down that road of reflection. He writes, "Often my own sense of ministry is nothing more than an awareness of missed opportunities, of gains that might have been won but for my being too blind, timid, forgetful, or otherwise employed to seize the moment. In spite of all the friends I've made here, I often wish that I had never come to Island Pond. The thought that I shall be one day called to account for what I've done in this place often seizes me like the realization that I failed to turn off an iron or the stove, and that it was hours and miles ago. I can smell the smoke." For my own part, I've spent the past few weeks haunted by the same feeling, as I've come to realize that for some reason, Newt Gingrich keeps emerging as a significant figure in my ministry. Perhaps I should explain. I first felt the undeniability of my call to ministry during his days as Speaker of the House in the early 1990s. He was almost daily appearing in speeches, ranting, red-faced, attributing every social ill to unwed mothers, railing against the irresponsibility of government providing any support whatsoever to those in need. I was having daily encounters with the sacred as I witnessed the heartbreaking and sometimes life-affirming choices of women of every age, class, and ethnicity in my work as a counselor and medical assistant at an abortion clinic. My grief at the fact that our Unitarian Universalist faith hadn't equipped me with the language to meet the public rhetoric of blame and intolerance in the name of a God I could never believe in, with the compassion and trust that I knew from my faith upbringing, encouraged me to pursue further study. So I enrolled in Harvard Divinity School to learn that language, to be able to fight fire with fire and learn feminist biblical interpretation, and then bring it and so many more hopeful, inclusive, compassionate theologies to people who needed to hear them. That path has taken me through flirtations with doctoral studies, to directing a domestic violence shelter, to being a consultant with edgy urban social justice ministries, to fundraising for Faithful Fools, and spending time living on the streets of San Francisco to bear witness to the lives of people without homes. And it has landed me in the last place I ever thought I would be doing ministry, a suburban New England congregation. It seems noteworthy that as I enter this sabbatical time of discernment, Mr. Gingrich is again a loud figure on the political scene, again claiming a righteous hold on religious values that bear little resemblance to the faith that has called me, again challenging me to make good on my promise to take my theological education and training and bring the good news of our faith into the world. Now, the point of my making that confession about Mr. Gingrich and our relationship is not a political one. I hope that everyone here will know that you should vote your conscience and values when you have the opportunity, and whatever your choice, you're fully loved and welcome in the circle of this community. My point, though, is that we all have some external markers that remind us of where we come from and help us return to and assess the place where we're going based on that starting point. Mine just happens to come in the form of Mr. Gingrich. My time in ministry in this church, a call that I think was surprising to all of us when the vote was taken by the congregation, my time here has taught me even more deeply the urgency of the call of this faith, the importance of covenanted communities in which to learn it and carry it out. You've awakened me to the precious gift and unexpected surprise of each day as I've come to know you through unwelcome diagnoses, the devastating losses of life, and those incredible, exalting joys. You've helped me to learn that church is not the stopping place, but the starting place for discerning God's call to us in this world. This church offers a place where people can practice holy listening, dwell in community beyond family and neighborhood, offer prayers, and show up at each other's times of need. In church, we practice tuning ourselves to some of the many ways that the sacred shows up so that we can be ready to notice and mark it when we're not at church. We practice the ways we most want to be, and we come to confess, if only in our hearts, the ways that we've fallen short. And you've also shown me that we understand the urgency of this faith best not within the walls of the church, where we comfortably speak the same language, but when we encounter the depth of need outside the church, in the places where we ourselves might be the strangers. If we do all of that stuff we do well in church to our best, if we learn to listen for grace and offer it when we're able, then we become more ready to see and hear and feel it when we're outside. But we need to get outside, and we need to come back. One of the things that has been sometimes challenging for me here is the constancy of the need to translate across cultures, of translating liberal religious principles to a world completely unaware of them, of being a multi-ethnic person who's at the forefront of a congregation that largely understands itself as mono-ethnic, of wondering how we truly extend our welcome and live our love of neighbor, both in and out of church. We know that we can't love our neighbors unless we let ourselves know them, and we can't know them unless we know ourselves. So I enter into my sabbatical time with the explicit learning goal of deepening my skills at intercultural ministry. I'll be doing 2 trainings in intercultural sensitivity, and I'll be trained to train others in that path of intercultural understanding. And I'll be spending time with a couple of multicultural churches, one in New York and one in Washington, D.C., to learn from experience what that effective ministry feels like. My hope for my time is that I can get insight and experience and fresh perspectives to bring back to our work together. And don't worry, I'll be sure to take some time in these 4 months to rest up for the next leg of our journey as well. My hope for you, my beloveds, all of you who have taught me so much, who have helped me through so much growth and learning, and shown me over and over again the miracles that a group of good people covenanted to love each other can do. My hope for you in my time away is that in the absence of my words every week, you turn to one another and listen more deeply to the call coming from within this community, that you take full advantage of the many perspectives that will be shared in worship from Reverend Molly, your worship committee, our excellent guest preachers, and that you keep asking yourselves, how will we take the saving message of our faith into lives outside of church? How can we practice it in how we plan for our own future what we talk about with our colleagues at work, how we prioritize the way we spend our time and the way we spend our money. I hope you'll keep showing up for one another and this community faithfully, because in that you've been my greatest inspiration. I hope you'll take time to find words for the ways that this faith saves you and share those stories and experiences widely as you can. And I hope you'll give from the depths of your knowledge. You'll give during this upcoming budget drive, that you'll give from that knowledge that this faith can also be a saving force in the world, that funding the future of this congregation is an investment in something that extends far beyond us, that our ministry is needed to both transform ourselves and our world. And I hope you'll understand that that can't be accomplished for settling for a sum that you won't notice coming out of your monthly bank account, but only by stretching to give an amount that will remind you as you balance your checkbook what it means to order your life by what you believe. Most of all, I hope that each week, as you make your way through the joyful days and the cranky ones, the exalting moments and the mundane, that you carry within you the deep knowledge that goodness was born and dwells in you, and that a greater love holds you and everyone else you meet. Return to worship together in celebration and affirmation of that, and all will be more than well. All will be blessed. I will miss you, my dear ones, each and every one of you, and I will carry you with me. Amen.
Marcia Maurer. I'm the chair of the Committee on Ministry, and I'm being joined by Tracy Robinson, chair of the Personnel Committee, and Joe Ayub, chair of the Worship Committee, and Melinda Collins, chair of the Parish Committee. We all wish for Parisa to have a period of time now where she can reflect and rest and renew, and in order for her to do that, we want her to be in a place where she's confident and knowledgeable that everything is just ducky here at First Parish. And so, to get us all, as a group, focused on that goal, we're going to enter into the covenant, which you have on the back of your announcements. So if you haven't already, please pull out your yellow announcement and flip it over, and you'll see. So if everyone would join me in the first line, and then there are going to be a couple things for the chairs to do, and then we'll all join in again together. So beginning, the first line. Recognizing that the ministry of this congregation ultimately belongs to us, we will all take responsibility for keeping things running while Parisa is away.
We will not change Parisa's terms of employment while she's away. We will not make changes to her compensation or benefits, her hours, or her levels of authority, responsibility, and accountability.
We will make no major change in the liturgy while Parisa is away.
We will not terminate any staff except under extraordinary circumstances.
Please join me in the rest. We will be respectful of the intent of sabbatical to be time away from church for Parisa, and will refrain from discussing church business with her should we see her in and around town. We will adopt an attitude of just say yes when asked to do something. We will be respectful of our lay leadership. We will be extraordinarily supportive of our staff. We will do our best to attend Sunday worship as often as possible and encourage others to do so. We will not stop attending Sunday services just because Parisa is not in the pulpit. We will make visitors feel welcome and do what we can to contribute to an atmosphere of warmth and welcoming at the church. We will be welcoming of guest speakers and speak well of them. If something isn't running right, we will communicate with the appropriate people about it. We will recognize that when things don't go well, there is an opportunity for growth for the congregation. We may try some new things, but we will make no major changes while Parisa is away. We will wait after Parisa returns to discuss any changes we would like to make. We will intentionally keep the drama down, but if real conflict arises, we will follow our covenant and make use of the sabbatical team. And I'll just point out to you that myself and Tracy and Melinda are the sabbatical team, or as Bibi said to me, the troika. And you can you see us all at church, but also there is, I'll remind everyone, an email, sabbatical@fpmilton.org, that goes to all our emails. So that's another way to reach us quickly. So thank you.
Thank you.
And good luck to you.
I want to give a special extra thank you to our lay leaders who will take on extra responsibility in my absence, and bless them for this time. Thank you. Now, if everyone will please join rising in body or spirit to sing our closing hymn, number 113, Where is Our Holy Church?